The masculine pursuit of loyalty is often built upon a foundation of earnest, yet fundamentally flawed, logic. It is a deeply ingrained belief, almost a rite of passage, where a man comes to understand his role as a provider and protector. He is taught that value is demonstrated through action, that love is proven by sacrifice, and that security is built brick by brick with the sweat of his brow. This is the core of the fallacy, the conviction that a woman's heart is a vault, and his endless deeds are the combination that will lock it shut forever. He operates on a transactional worldview, though he would never call it that, pouring his love, his resources, and his time into what he believes is a shared investment. In a future of guaranteed returns, he works the long hours not just for the paycheck, but for the silent promise it represents. He remains faithful through temptation, seeing it as a deposit into the account of trust. He carries her through her darkest hours, believing he is forging an unbreakable bond of mutual dependence. This isn't a calculated strategy. It is an article of faith, a narrative he tells himself about how the world and love is supposed to work. It is a language of effort, where grand gestures and quiet sacrifices are the words used to spell out forever. This provider's mindset is not inherently wrong. It is, in fact, a noble and stabilizing force. The error lies not in the giving, but in the expectation of what that giving should yield. The man believes that his history of good deeds creates a form of relational equity, a buffer against the inevitable challenges that will immunize the relationship against collapse. He thinks, after all I have done, how could she ever leave? This question, which echoes in the minds of countless men after a breakup, reveals the depth of the miscalculation. He has been speaking the language of logic and action to a partner who is listening in the language of emotion and sensation. He is building a fortress of stability, unaware that her loyalty does not reside within stone walls, but flows like the wind, changing direction and intensity based on a complex weather system of feelings. He believes his efforts should control, but ultimately cannot. This initial chapter in a man's understanding of relationships sets him up for profound confusion later, because he is playing by a set of rules he believes are universal, only to discover that his partner is playing an entirely different game. This is the core of the painful disconnect. A woman's loyalty is not a monument built from the bricks of a man's sacrifices. It is a weather pattern, shifting and changing, governed by an internal emotional climate that operates on its own rules, independent of history, logic, or debt. This is the tyranny of feeling. A man can point to the house he paid for, the years of unwavering support, the countless small and large sacrifices made in the name of the relationship. He builds a case, a logical argument for why loyalty should be guaranteed. But her reality is not ruled by precedent or a balance sheet. It is governed by a single, paramount question. How do I feel in this moment, in this man's presence? The feeling changes. The entire narrative shifts to justify it. The stability he provided becomes boredom. His loyal consistency becomes predictability. His dependable nature becomes a lack of excitement. The very qualities she once praised become the reasons she uses to explain her departure. The language of the breakup is never about the facts of what he did or did not do. It is exclusively the language of emotion. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Just don't feel the connection anymore. Spark is gone. These are not excuses. They are her truth. For her, the feeling is the fact. The emotion is the reality. This creates a fundamental asymmetry that leaves men bewildered and broken. Men often love with memory and principle. A promise made is a promise kept. History builds obligation and deepens commitment. If we gave our word, we stand by it. But this is a foreign language in the realm of emotional loyalty. Women, in this context, love with present tense sensation. The past is not a binding contract. It is a collection of moments that were true then, but hold no power over what is true now. Her loyalty is a current, not a reservoir. It flows toward whatever source energizes her emotional state in the present moment. This is why she can walk away from a decade of shared history for a new connection that offers a fresh wave of feeling. The new man hasn't earned anything, hasn't proven anything, and hasn't sacrificed anything. But he triggers a sensation, excitement, intrigue, sense of aliveness that is faded in the familiar comfort of the long-term relationship. In her world, this isn't a betrayal of the past. It is an honest acknowledgement of the present emotional truth. The man is left clutching the photo album of their history, utterly confused. Because he was loyal to the shared story, while her loyalty was only ever to the feeling she had while living it, a feeling that has now evaporated. This fundamental misunderstanding of what secures loyalty leads men directly into a devastating paradox. The very act of overgiving, of desperate sacrifice to prove one's worth, becomes the poison that kills the desire it seeks to secure. The man, operating on his flawed logic, interprets her waning excitement as a signal that he simply hasn't done enough. He doubles down. He works harder to provide more. He becomes more attentive. He sacrifices his own time, peace, and boundaries. In a frantic attempt to rekindle the feeling he believes his actions should guarantee, he believes he is demonstrating his ultimate value and commitment. But in her eyes, he is not displaying strength. He is displaying neediness. He is not proving his worth. He is negotiating for hers, the man who bends over backwards, who empties his wallet and his soul without requiring anything in return, is not seen as a devoted partner. He is seen as a servant, and servants are not desired, they are used. Their constant availability devalues their presence. Their lack of boundaries signals a lack of self-respect, and it is impossible to genuinely respect someone who does not respect themselves. This creates the cruelest and most confusing outcome for a man. She may accept every gift, every vacation, every moment of his devotion, all while her attraction and respect for him quietly erode. Then, she often leaves for a man who offers none of these things. The new man may have less money, less stability, and invests far less effort. But he offers something the provider, in his desperate generosity, lost, a frame of his own. He is not trying to buy her loyalty. He expects it as a natural consequence of his presence. He is unpredictable, not as a game, but because his world does not revolve around her approval. This emotional spark, even if it comes from chaos or uncertainty, is often misinterpreted by her as a more potent form of engagement than the comfortable, predictable safety of the overgiving man. The paradox is complete. The man who gave everything, who dedicated his life to making her happy, is abandoned for the man who makes her feel, often at her own expense. The provider failed not in his effort, but in his ability to spark an emotion. He confused providing with leading and sacrifice with strength. In trying to solve an emotional problem with logical actions, he only deepened the divide, becoming a mere fixture in her life, comfortable, reliable, and utterly invisible to the passions that truly govern her loyalty. If a woman's loyalty is contingent on an emotional state that you cannot control through direct action, the solution is not to simply give up or become cynical. The only effective and empowering response is to perform a radical shift of investment away from her and directly back onto yourself. The goal is to stop trying to control the weather and instead become an unshakable anchor, a constant in the midst of her emotional storms. This begins with the complete abandonment of seeking validation from her. It means never begging for loyalty, never arguing with a feeling using logic, and never attempting to negotiate desire. These actions are the ultimate display of neediness, and they irrevocably shatter the very respect you are trying to win. Instead, you must build an immovable frame defined by self-respect, clear boundaries, and a presence that is not contingent on her approval. Your value becomes intrinsic, a fact you know to be true, rather than a prize she must constantly award you. This man, the anchor, understands that while he cannot control her feelings, he has absolute sovereignty over his own energy and response. When she pulls away to test the stability of the relationship he does not chase, he remains calm and focused on his own purpose. When she threatens to leave, he does not panic and list his contributions. He calmly accepts her choice, understanding that a loyalty that can be threatened into existence is not worth having. When her emotions shift and she becomes distant or critical, he does not contort himself to fit her new mood. He holds his ground, maintaining his standards and his peace. This is not a tactic of passive aggression. It is the profound strength of a man who is rooted in his own reality. This unwavering stance, this refusal to be emotionally tossed about by her changing tides, is what ultimately commands a deep and genuine respect. And while her feelings may always be fluid, respect is the closest thing to stable ground you can find. It is the only soil where a healthier, more sustainable form of loyalty has a chance to take root. By anchoring in yourself, you stop being a reactive participant in her emotional world and become a stable force she must consciously choose to engage with, align with, or ultimately leave. The ultimate liberation for a man is the acceptance of a simple, unvarnished truth. A woman's loyalty is a conditional state, perpetually contingent upon the shifting landscape of her emotions. This is not a call to bitterness, but an invitation to profound personal freedom. Once this reality is fully internalized, the entire dynamic changes. You are released from the exhausting, unwinnable game of trying to manufacture a permanent feeling in someone else. You stop performing, overgiving, and sacrificing your peace on the altar of her momentary happiness. You cease to see her promises of forever as binding contracts, and instead understand them as authentic expressions of how she feels in that singular moment. This knowledge is not a weapon to be used against her, but a tool for your own stability. It allows you to engage without the weight of unrealistic expectation, to appreciate the good seasons without being destroyed by the inevitable shifts. This acceptance is the foundation of true strength. You build yourself your purpose, your boundaries, your inner peace, so solidly that her emotional weather no longer dictates your climate. Your sense of worth becomes intrinsic, divorced from her approval or presence. You understand that if she stays, it is not a final verdict on your value, but a reflection of a current alignment. If she leaves, it is not a catastrophic failure on your part, but a change in her internal state. This mindset is what makes you untouchable to the chaos of relational uncertainty. You're no longer a passenger on her emotional roller coaster, desperately trying to steer. You are a grounded observer on solid earth. You stop seeking loyalty in her words and start discerning it in her consistent patterns. You stop trying to buy affection and instead command respect through the quiet power of your boundaries. A man who is loyal to his own truth, to his purpose, his values, and his self-respect is a man who cannot be broken by a change of heart. He enjoys the connection for what it is, a shared journey for as long as it lasts, without the desperate fear of its end. The self-ownership is the final and most important lesson, transforming a painful revelation into the source of your deepest resilience and peace.